Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, big welcome to everybody here to Chapel Field Stud, the home of Stallion AI services and HRH Genetics. It's great to see so many familiar faces here. Some haven't seen for a long time, and some I've seen more recently. So today is really a celebration, obviously opening this new centre, and it's really to thank everybody here in this room and everybody who's really helped us to get to this place and where we are today. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey. I'm going to take you where we've come from, where we are, where we're hopefully going to as well. So before we start that, I thought we'd just do a little bit of history of AI. So we all think maybe it lasted a few years ago, but actually around about sort of 1300s in Arabic text, there were some references where they used to put a sponge in a mare, let the stallion cover the mare, get the sponge out, get the semen out of that sponge, and then actually AI a few mares with that. And then in the 1700s, Mr. El Spelanzai, he looked into the first cooling effects of semen. He actually found out that actually cooling semen produced the longevity of it. And then in 1903, Mr. E.I. Ivanhoff set up the first insemination centre in Russia, and the first frozen foal, or sort of frozen foal born by frozen semen, was back in sort of 1955. So things are coming a long way, but this next video I think is quite poignant. This is how the first scientific documented video of how they used to collect semen. They used to let the stallion cover the mare, and then he would come along, good health and safety, as you see. Looks like the postman's just turned up as well. But they wash them off, and then they would literally go in, scoop the semen out of the mare, and this was for breeding horses for the German army back in the 1930s, and there you had the semen. Now, any of you sitting out there, I think sometimes thinking you've got a bad job, well, you just spare a thought for this guy. This was the very first dummy mare that they used. So I think we've all got to think ourselves lucky. And here you are. And I think if you had the expression what this horse is thinking, you've got to be kidding, really, haven't you? But luckily nowadays for us, things have actually moved on quite a bit since then, and we've got a bit more new technology. But that was the history of AI. Now moving on, a bit of the history of the farm. Some may or may not know, really, the farm was a big dairy farm, and we had about 350 cows here, and about 2,500 pigs, and they were actually stationed where we're sitting on this bit of concrete here. And then in the late 1960s, the farm got decimated by foot and mouth, and father and grandfather had to re-pick the farm up again to build new herd. They were always into cheese making for many years, but this is something that very much father was very proud of, making some of the best cheese in the country, Red Leicester and Cheshire cheese as well, and that's where we had the old collection area many years ago. So coming on to present time, at the moment, the farm, where it's gone is the farm split into two halves. My brother Edward has all the mare insemination side, and we have the stallion and semen collection side here. Just got a short video of the new facilities that we've just built here today. The decision was made back in 2015 to move away from our existing place due to really the sort of building restrictions. We couldn't grow. So we moved here last year on the 1st of April, and we've invested £1.5 million with a bit of help from NatWest. Well, actually, a lot of help from NatWest, I should say. We currently support about 27 members of staff. That keeps growing on a daily basis. I seem to losing count. We have individual turnout paddocks specially designed to try and keep the stallions at rest, and so they get the exercise. We've got 28 stables. We've actually got a further 10, so we can take up to 38 stallions at any one time. We've got a large outdoor school. This means we can take competition stallions here now that can compete from here, so they can do a competition schedule as well as a breeding schedule at the same time. We've got a purpose-built collection area that we've got special flooring in to aid the stallions being collected from, and the laboratory now we've doubled or trebled the size, so we can actually collect semen, and it pretty much goes 3 different ways: fresh, chilled or frozen, and then it can pretty much go anywhere in the world. It's not just the UK market, it's the export market. So we've invested an awful lot in the state-of-the-art equipment in that lab to try and freeze and preserve some of these animals that actually have maybe semen a bit more technically challenged to freeze. We've adapted new techniques to doing this. Over the years, and then obviously up here, we've got the conference centre as well. Over the years, we've frozen from about 1,100 stallions from 47 different breeds. We've collected and freeze about 110 stallions a year, roughly. So I just want to go through a few people who've helped us here today. Now, pretty much everybody in this room has helped us in one way or the other get here, so I have to apologise now. I can't go through here. Her Royal Highness would be very late if I did. But there are a few key people I have to mention. There's obviously my father. My father, well, if there's one person with a bigger smile on his face today, that'll be him. He'll be looking down on us here today with a big grin, especially with Her Royal Highness sitting here today. He'll be very, very proud, telling everybody up there how he knows you, how he's worked with you and everything. I'm telling you that. He was president of the Rare Breed Survival Trust from 2014 to 2015, where sadly he passed away. And he was vice chairman of the National Equine Forum for nearly 20 years, and he played a big prominent role in that. So, moving on, our first stallion. Now, this is one of the stallion that started it all, and how it all happened. We did natural covering with him, and he used to cover thoroughbred mares. One time when we were covering a mare, he actually, when he naturally covering, he actually ruptured the mare inside, and the mare died. And we thought there must be an easy way of doing this. So one of the ways we looked into this was I went on a field trip to New Zealand, learned how they did AI there, and then came back and started practicing it over here, how they did actually AI. And it really took off. But there's one person in particular that helped me who's here today, is Dick Taylor. Now, he's our local veterinary centre. He's retired now, but he really took us by the hand and said, yeah, we can do this. We can do this AI. And we started practicing, and we suddenly saw the conception rates getting better and better, and he was a big helping hand. And then in '96, I was in a point-to-point committee meeting, and there's a chap called Richard Owen who's here today, and he said, I've been speaking to Genus, who are a big cattle freezing company, and they said they're looking into the horse side. Would you be interested? So I went and had a meeting with this gentleman, Stuart Ravel. I haven't seen him, I don't think, for 15 years maybe, and he really set the standards and said, yes, we can start freezing semen with us and we'll help you. And he really has set the standards and the benchmark that we still use today. The extenders that we use, yes, we've adapted them slightly, but it's because of him that I feel that we've kept our standards up high, so I owe a lot of gratitude. And then another friend who you saw talking for is Matt. He's been here really since '96 for 22 years. So always a good character, always going to laugh. This is when we were trying to collect off some onlookers for Chester Zoo many years ago. So he's been helping us if there's any issues or fertility issues and so on. But coming on to the actual stallions themselves, they're the ones that have also helped us. And the first one that we had here, really the predominant that you may all well know, is Demonstrator. Elizabeth Walkinshaw's here today, and it's great to see her. And he was the first horse I actually got really personally attached to. This horse, he's part human, I always think. He died at the age of 33 here. He was here for about 10 years, and he really started the stepping stone to other horses. Mill Law, owned by Sue Brown, one of the most predominant eventing breeding sires in his time. He presented new challenges for us. We were always used to having maybe 20 or 30 mares for a stallion. He suddenly had well over 100. So we had to adapt our ways in the lab to cope with this. Some days there were 5, 6, 7 mares a day. So we had to raise our game to fulfill his books. But yeah, he was a great stallion. Then there was Emerald J. He was a show Arabian stallion. He's left us a few years ago now, but he was the world leading show stallion. He won over £500,000 in Dubai in one show. But he set new challenges to us because he was the first one we exporting. We were trying to export sometimes 6 or 7 samples a day all around Europe, and we had to again raise our game, get in the export papers, and actually being able to fulfill his requirements. Arco, who's actually in the stables at the moment, he's been coming to us since the age of 7. He went to the Athens Olympics written by Nick Skelton and won over £1.5 or £1.2 million money in prize money, and still now is the sire of Argento, who's out there and producing some amazing stock. Ramiro B, again, he's out in the yard, and we're going to see a collection of him after this when we get into our groups. He's one of the most prolific eventing sires at the moment, and he's 4th in the world with the Breeding Federation, owned by Nina Barber from Bolesworth Estates. Jaguar Male, another leading eventing sire, Olympic show jumper at the Beijing Olympics. The agents are Elite Stallions, who actually market him, and he's 2nd in the world for the breeding. So to have 2 of the top 4 breeding sires here, we feel very honoured and very privileged. Big Star, again, we're very privileged to have him here. He's here at the moment. He's just been doing a European tour, double gold medal winning. He had nearly 700 or 800 breedings all over the world last year, and it's quite amazing. Obviously, being the number 1, he's owned by Gary and Beverly Widdowson, and he's just starting his breeding career. So that's just some of the stallions that we've got here. I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned them all, because I know there are some stallion owners in the room, but I'm afraid I can't go through them all. So our current core business here is collecting and freezing semen for worldwide. Semen assessment, we do fertility investigations, lecturing and training, we have a quarantine centre, and our worldwide export. And our worldwide export is something I just want to concentrate on for a few moments. The worldwide export has really taken us by storm. In particular, this one example, I'll show you this Welsh cob that we had here quite some time ago. We managed to export his semen all over the world, but Canada, all around Europe, Australia and New Zealand, and pretty much the world is your oyster as soon as you get a stallion that you can market everywhere. And really our growth that we suddenly saw was the total amount of straws that we shipped back in 2012 was 1,500 straws. And then last year we shipped over 7,500 straws. This is to export. And then back in 2012 we were doing about 6 different countries, and last year we shipped to 21 different countries. On monetary terms, our value, it went from sort of £500,000 to back in 2012, and last year we shipped over £4 million worth of semen around the world. So the export market is a huge growth I see for the British breeders. And Jan Rogers gave me this slide just illustrating this. For Brexit we've had to come up with these figures, and I thought for many years 80% of semen was coming into the country and about 20% was going out. But we had to get these figures from Traces, which is the online movement of semen, and actually 6,400 consignments came in, and believe it or not, over double went out. So that's really showing us this country has got some massive breeding potential that we can actually export. Instead of getting it in, we can actually start exporting it. And this is a side that we're really trying to focus on as well. Just some of our successes. We exported the first lot of semen to Brazil, Israel, and just lately we've had the first foal, which is by the Hart Hills or Bolesworth Stallion Power Blade out in Kenya. I think they're fencing their paddocks. They have to be a little bit more careful where they put these horses for obvious reasons. Other side, on the international side, that I actually enjoy myself, I like going out and teaching the handling of stallions, setting up centres and laboratories. We just set up a centre in Kuwait, Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So we do quite a lot of work in the Middle East, and we do enjoy that, and teaching how they collect and process semen to hopefully the highest quality. We also set up annual meetings each year as well to collaborate with other freezing centres. So Paul Schockermuller's, where they have about 60 or 70 stallions, Amelie's or Equa Technique in France, they freeze about 110. We get together and between us we freeze about 250 stallions a year, and the knowledge we get from that, we all put it in a pot together and we actually do a total knowledge transfer, and that helps us develop new extenders, new ways we collect off the stallions and so on. And one of the techniques that we've been doing for quite a few years now is called epididymal semen harvesting, and this is where we can recover a stallion's genetics as a result of a trauma, of a last minute issue. The testicles are sent to us within 24 hours, chilled like Gail was saying. They arrive on our door. A bit of a lengthy process. We dissect the testicles, clean them off. It takes us about 4 or 5 hours to do this procedure. We take the epididymis off, we elongate them out and dissect them, and hopefully then we have some good quality semen. And this is our first foal. I think it was born about 5 or 6 years ago, which was done by this method. We've done this for quite a few years, and we suddenly got a phone call from in Scotland from this gentleman, said he just bought this bull, and he said, I've just paid 13,000 guineas for it, but it's just broken its leg. Can you salvage some of its genetic lines? Well, I said, I'll have a go. The power of Google. I was Googling the anatomy of the bull's testicles. They came down here. I heard nothing from him for about 2 years. We sent them back and the semen wasn't very good. It was about 15 to 20%. So I said, if it works, I want my freezer full of Aberdeen Angus. Anyway, about 3 years later, I got a phone call and he said, you're not going to believe it, but we got the first calf. And he thinks it's one of the first calves born ever by this method. And he said not only that, the papers have got hold of it and it was on the front page of the Sun. So I don't know whether it should be good publicity or what, but it was obviously there's no Brexit or anything else going on at this stage. So they use every expletive you can think of. They had a great fun with that. So moving on. Just some collaborations who we work with. Obviously we work very closely with my brother next door, Twemlows Horse Stud. They have 3 dedicated reproduction vets there in the summer working full time. They are over 300 mares a year, well 300 to 400 mares a year sometimes, and they have a recipient herd of about 160 for doing their embryo transfer of about 100 transfer. And I just want you to watch this video in the middle. Some of you may never ever seen this before. You've all seen human IVF, where you see the cells actually divide. This is the first video of actually a foal dividing for the first time. I don't know, I quite like it, but it's... So they take a picture of a time-lapse camera, so they take a picture every 20 minutes, and then obviously speed up. So this is the actual first stages of a foal being born, or being created, as you say, by ICSI. And Edward's got 3 foals on the ground by the ICSI method. And these new technology out there can really help certain breeds. And this Suffolk punch, this foal here was the first foal born by embryo transfer, we think, through the Suffolk Horse Society. So this is another way that we can maximise some of these rare breeds. So a mare can only produce 1 foal a year, and with this method, obviously she can produce several. So other collaborations, working with the Rare Breed Survival Trust, and my father obviously was present. I've had a great honour being the trustee for the Rare Breed Survival Trust for the last year, but it's quite poignant. There's 72 females left in the country, there's 300 left in the world, and I find it quite emotional, that video that Gail was playing before. You know, we are going to lose them if we don't do something about them. But we launched the Gene Bank Conference back in September to highlight this, and launched the Heavy Horse Appeal, really to raise awareness of these heavy horses, to try and stop them and raise awareness that we might lose this breed forever if we don't do something about it. So it was great to see in the paper on Saturday that we've got another use for a Suffolk. I mean, out in America, they're really flourishing with the log industry. We're slightly trying to find a use from over here, but at long last, it looks like I think they're even giving a Big Star a run for his money with this picture. I mean, it's a great picture, picking up his legs, but he's just arrived today, this stallion actually has, so it's very poignant. So other collaborations, we've got the vets here from Chester Zoo. We try and work quite closely with the zoos. We can learn an awful lot about the zoos. You remember, zoos have been preserving animals for years and years, and we can actually look at their techniques. So we've been working with Chester Zoo for a couple of years now with different projects, and any animals that they die from natural causes, they send us the testicles here, and we're actually trying to preserve some of their semen as well and trying to find new ways of doing it. So working with zoo, we do learn an awful lot from them. Other collaborations, we work with Imke from Hamburg Zoo. We supply our extender that Stuart helped develop many years ago. You won't believe it, it's actually freezing elephants and rhinos now, multi-species out there. So we have adapted slightly, but it's great that we're finding much more use for these different animals as well and preserving these rare and genetic animals. We're always looking into research and development. We're always trying to find the next step, the next best thing. So we're looking for innovative extenders, trying to improve them, new semen processing techniques. And actually the Suffolk Punch actually raised our game, believe it or not, because they were inherently difficult to freeze. So we had to find different ways of handling their semen. And now we use this right across the board. We've just come back, I've just been in the Middle East actually trying to freeze camels. They're very difficult to freeze. And inherently, you know, their semen quality is quite tricky to handle. So back in November, we were looking at them, and believe it or not, this is the two types of camels generally out there. You've got your racing camel, and you've got your beauty camel. Now she's worth about they told me they turned down £5 million for this camel. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put camels in the highest rate of being the beauty, but I don't know if we saw on the news the other day, they're actually putting Botox into their lips to make them even more beautiful, apparently. So, yeah, we're looking at some of these different animals as well. Some of the other work that we're doing is genetic preservation. Now, we've got a clone here at the moment called Merker's Gem, who's a clone of Gem Twist. Now, you heard quite a big lecture from John Spencer about cloning. The cost has gone from 200,000 euros many years ago down to 70,000 in quite a short space of time. Maybe in a few years' time, it might be down to 20 or 30,000, which is maybe more of an affordable thing to do. The main place to do it is in the States. And as today, we're actually proud to say that we're actually launching a new company as of last week called Gemini Genetics. This company is going to be taking on genetic material and banking it for future use. And yes, I think this is very much poignant, especially on the rare breed side, because all we have to do is take a few tissue samples and freeze them down. I'm not saying we have to clone the world, but once these breeds have gone, they've gone forever. And this may be some technology that we can use. We're actually linked in with this company called Viagen in America. They clone about 100 horses a year, pretty much from all over the world. And this is obviously a way that might be able to help rare breeds and species out there. Some other technology that we're looking at is sexing semen. We had a meeting only here yesterday from a company called Sexing Technologies, and they are the only company that can actually sex semen at the moment. And it's quite poignant. I spoke to Steve Pullen before, and he was telling me the Cleveland Bay, which is on the critically endangered list, they had 32 foals born back in 2016. 23 were male. So if that carried on happening, you can imagine that their breeding strategy is going to fall apart. So maybe sexing a semen, maybe this is something that can actually help them as well. But we're very, very early stages. We hope to start rolling this out in the next sort of 2 or 3 months. Something else we're hopefully to launch is a Breeders' Club. This is a platform to help mare owners and stallion owners get more mares, and also mare owners to help sell their foals. We're going to be holding educational courses, social events, and so on. So our future goals. Really, we want to carry on expanding the market through the UK and international. Setting up new laboratories all over the world, that's obviously something I like. Further development and offering obviously lecturing and training up here. Trying to get competition stallions here. That's how they do it in Europe. They have competition standing here and competing from here, as well as obviously breeding at the same time. Set up a gene bank, hopefully. Sexing semen. This is something hopefully we're going to be rolling out fairly soon. and further research into our freezing. I think our freezing semen, as much as it is good now, I think it's something we can invest an awful lot more. We're going to be recruiting a PhD student from Nottingham Trent University who will be looking into seeing how we can actually make it better. And at the moment, the quality or the conception rates are over here for frozen and over here for fresh, and we just want to narrow that gap so the frozen can be as nearly good as fresh. We've got a long way to go, but we're getting it closer. And working with zoos to preserve the genetics and endangered species. But moving on, but none of this could happen without a certain few people, and that's our team. They are instrumental. They are really pushing us forward, and we've had a hell of a year this year. We've entered into a few nominations, and we won the Shropshire Star Medium Business of the Year, Agricultural Farming Shropshire Star Award, and then we moved up and won the Chamber Awards for the International Trade and Technology and Enterprise, and it culminated really winning the Small Business of the Year for the whole of the West Midlands, which was a great feat, and it's all down to the team that work here. And one lady who wants to be here today, but I'm afraid couldn't, is Kate. She actually, a lot of you know her, and I'll just give you the news, she had a baby girl at 1:30 this morning. I feel more sad. She's missing out on this because she's really got us here where we are today, and everybody agree who knows her in this room. She pushes and kicks me, and forces us forward and gets me to where we are today. And so it's really a lot of why we're here today is because of her. And also one other person that is my wife. She's been instrumental, making sure, trying to keep me on the straight and narrow and the level-headed, and trying to keep my nerves down when over these last few years of building this project. So we certainly couldn't have done it without her. So really, as I come to the end of this presentation, I think I'm so excited about the future and where we're going and the opportunities that present to us. The technology out there, I think we should try and embrace and use to help preserve these rare and genetic lines. Great Britain is starting to lead the way in equine breeding across all disciplines and various breeds all around the world, and I think we've got to embrace that and use that. This journey started in '96, and although we've come a long way, I feel it's only just begun. Thank you.